They say when it rains, it pours. But on that particular Tuesday, the forecast said partly cloudy with a chance of late afternoon drizzle. What I got instead was a Category 5 emotional hurricane, with betrayal gusts up to 100 miles per hour. It started with a sock. Not just any sock. A baby blue one with a tiny embroidered panda face. It was tucked between the cushions of our sofa, a sofa my wife and I had sat on for 5 years of Netflix marathons, birthday party planning, and that one accidental wine spill we still laugh about. Only now, it wasn't funny. Because we don't have kids. And I sure don't own any socks with pandas on them. I held it in my hand like it was radioactive. "Hey, Jen," I called out. My voice, calm. Too calm. "Yeah," she answered from the kitchen, the sound of a blender briefly drowning her out. Making smoothies like nothing was wrong. That was her gift, making betrayal look casual. I stepped in and held up the sock. "This yours?" She blinked. "1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. Oh, that must be Madison's. She brought her nephew over last week. Madison has a cat and a wine subscription. No nephew." She froze. Just for a second. Most people wouldn't have caught it. But I'd known Jennifer since we were 16. I noticed everything. Then she smiled. "Oh, maybe it was Rachel then. Honestly, I don't remember." A sock. A slip. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. And suddenly, our marriage was on life support. After the sock incident, things didn't unravel, they unzipped. Quietly. Like someone sneaking out the back door of a burning house. I started noticing patterns. Phone always face down. New gym classes twice a day, even though she hated sweating. And then there was the perfume. Not hers. Not mine. Something floral, foreign, and expensive. I played dumb. Because sometimes, playing dumb is the smartest move. Until one night, I got my answer in 4K resolution. I came home early from work, left the office mid-meeting, told my boss I had food poisoning. Which wasn't a total lie. My stomach had been in knots for weeks. I opened the front door. Heard voices upstairs. One was hers. The other? Male. Confident. Too comfortable. I didn't storm in. Didn't scream. I did what any emotionally imploding man with a smartphone and shaky hands would do. I hit record. When I heard my name, asterisk, don't worry, Logan's clueless, asterisk, something inside me stopped functioning. Like a fuse blew and all the lights shut off. 10 minutes later, they were gone. Not just from the room, gone like nothing happened. And Jennifer? She came downstairs humming. Made herself a tea. Smiled like the cat that swallowed the canary and the whole birdcage. "You're home early," she said, casual. I smiled back. "Yeah. Stomach thing. Something just didn't sit right." She nodded. "Hope you feel better." I did feel better. Because now I had proof. Not just suspicion. Not just instinct. I had evidence. And a plan forming so clearly in my mind it was like I'd rehearsed it in another life. The first thing I did was nothing. I didn't confront her. Didn't change my tone. Just filed everything away, videos, screenshots, timestamps, little inconsistencies like mental breadcrumbs. I was no longer Logan the husband. I was Logan the historian, archiving the downfall of a marriage in stunning detail. At night, while she slept next to me, blissfully or guiltlessly, I still don't know, I'd stare at the ceiling and plan. Divorce wasn't enough. Not for what she did. Not for who she did it with. Because it wasn't just anyone. It was Travis. My best man. My childhood friend. The guy who used to finish my sentences and borrow my hoodies like brothers do. Apparently, he wanted to borrow something else too. So, she said one evening, spooning leftover pasta onto her plate, Travis invited us to his lake house next weekend. "You in?" I didn't even blink. "Sure." Her fork paused midair. Maybe surprised I said yes. But that's the thing about chess. You don't flip the board because you're losing. You stay quiet, protect the king, and wait for the right moment to trap the queen. That night, I opened a new spreadsheet. One tab labeled expenses, another assets, and the third receipts. Literal ones from hotels, dinners, gas stations, even a mini golf scorecard with her handwriting and a little heart next to Travis's name. Rookie move. But I was grateful for it. By the end of the week, I knew everything I needed to know. How long? How often? Where? When? Enough to make an attorney weep with joy. Friday came dressed like a perfect cliché. Clear skies, chirping birds, and that fake kind of sunshine that makes people post selfies captioned blessed. We packed our bags. Her stuffed with sundresses and just enough guilt to zip it closed. Mine had exactly what I needed, a USB drive, a backup hard copy, and one very simple resolve: smile until it's time not to. The drive up was awkward in a way that didn't feel new anymore. Jennifer talked about the lake house like it was some enchanted castle. Travis has a boat now, she said, like it was a prize I'd won. He's dying to show it to us. Us. Bold word for someone who hadn't been a we in months. We pulled into the gravel driveway. The house sat there, smug and picturesque. Travis was already outside, sunglasses on, drink in hand, shirtless like he'd rehearsed this moment in a mirror. Logan, he called out like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't watched him grope my wife in grainy club security cam footage last Thursday. I stepped out of the car. Travis, I said, all teeth. Still wearing shades to hide your poker face? He laughed. You know me. Gotta keep it mysterious. Right. Mysterious. Like where your loyalty went. The first hour was surprisingly normal. Drinks, small talk, Jennifer laughing a little too hard at his jokes. Me playing the role of the oblivious husband with Oscar-worthy restraint. I smiled. I nodded. I even pretended not to notice her brush his arm when she walked by. But beneath all that calm, my mind was running numbers like a Vegas dealer. Every glance, every whisper, every time she said, "Be right back," and disappeared toward the back deck with her friend. I tracked it all. Because the trap wasn't just set, it was warming up. Travis offered to show me the boat while Jennifer went inside to freshen up. I followed him down to the dock. The water was peaceful. Shame it wasn't going to stay that way. You know, he said, stepping onto the deck of the boat, I wasn't sure you'd come. Why wouldn't I? I asked. Free trip, free booze, and great company. He squinted at me, maybe sensing something, but not enough. Still, you're a good guy, Logan. One of the best. I get that a lot, I said, leaning on the rail. Especially from people who've done something terrible to me. There was a pause. A flicker of discomfort. You all right, man? He asked, tone dipping just slightly. Better than ever, I replied. Because the lake house had one thing neither of them counted on, Travis's Wi-Fi was terrible, but his printer worked just fine. After dinner, while Jennifer and Travis were sipping wine on the back porch, I made my move. I walked into the living room and placed 3 manila envelopes on the coffee table, one labeled Jen, one Travis, and one left blank. She saw them first. What's this? Gifts, I said. Thought I'd bring something special to the lake house. They opened them at the same time. Jennifer's hands trembled before she got halfway through hers. Travis turned pale. A stack of photos, GPS logs, text message screenshots, and a neatly printed timeline of their little soap opera, all packaged like a resume for shame. Where did you? She started. You're not very stealthy with passwords, I said. Also, hiding your car 3 blocks away every Thursday night was creative, but not exactly mission impossible. Travis stood up, puffed his chest. Logan, I don't know what you think. Spare me, I cut in. You weren't just cheating with my wife. You were breaking into a house that had me as its foundation. And now? I'm tearing it down. Jennifer looked at me, panic creeping in. We didn't mean to hurt you. No, I said, calm as ever. You meant to lie to me. Repeatedly. You just didn't expect the guy who folds his socks and pays the bills on time to have a spine. I picked up the blank envelope. This one goes to your firm's ethics board, Travis. The ones that care a lot about interpersonal boundaries with married clients. I turned to Jen. Yours? I haven't decided yet. Depends how fast you move out of my house. Her face dropped. You're kicking me out? No, I said, standing. I'm liberating myself. You don't get to keep both the affair and the real estate. That's not how this works. They both started talking over each other, excuses and apologies fumbling out like loose change. But I didn't need to hear any of it. My mind was already 5 steps ahead. The lock would be changed by Monday. The divorce papers were already drafted. My attorney had a calendar full of receipts. You were never supposed to find out, she whispered finally. And that, right there, was the most honest thing she'd said in months. We left the lake house in separate cars. Travis stayed behind, probably to collect the dignity he left scattered around the patio. Jennifer rode in silence. I didn't say a word. Not because I was angry, anger would have been easy. No, what I felt was colder. Heavier. Like carrying a memory you never asked for. When we pulled into the driveway, she didn't move. Are you going to say anything? She asked, eyes red. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who once knew my coffee order and the name of my childhood dog. Now, she looked like a stranger wearing Jennifer's face. What's left to say? I replied. I never meant for it to go that far, she said softly, as if confessing made it any less real. That's funny, I said, grabbing my bag. You looked pretty committed from the footage. She flinched. I stepped inside without waiting for her. She followed like a shadow, one that used to belong to a partner but now just clung like guilt. The next few days were civil in the way a battlefield is quiet after the shooting stops. She slept in the guest room. I changed the locks and left her a copy of the new key, not because I trusted her, but because I wanted her out without more drama. A lawyer served the papers Tuesday morning. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat at the table, staring at them like they were her own obituary. I guess this is it, she said. Yeah, I replied. This is the part where I stopped pretending. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted the truth to marinate. Truth, when timed right, is like fine wine. Served too early, it's sour. Served at the right moment, it burns all the way down. Then came the dinner with my parents. Jennifer wasn't invited, obviously. Just me, and a truth bomb wrapped in polite conversation. Where's Jen tonight? Mom asked, pouring wine. Gone, I said, and not coming back. They paused. My father tilted his head like a dog hearing a distant train. She cheated, I continued. With Travis. The silence was immediate and glorious. Travis, my mom said, voice climbing an octave. As in, Travis from your wedding photos? Travis from your fantasy football league? Yep, that Travis. Dad looked like he'd swallowed a thumbtack. You sure? I've got screenshots, timestamps, receipts, and a limited edition betrayal starter kit. Mom's hand flew to her chest. Oh, sweetheart. I'm fine, I said. Really? And I was. Mostly. Because once you stop trying to salvage the unsalvageable, there's peace in the wreckage. It's quiet. But it's honest. What I didn't expect was how fast the world started choosing sides. Apparently, infidelity brings out everyone's inner referee. Her friends rallied. They posted vague, no one's perfect statuses on social media. Some even had the audacity to message me. She's been under so much stress, Logan. She didn't know how to tell you. Travis is just a symptom of what's been wrong for a long time. I didn't reply, because I wasn't about to debate moral philosophy with people who think cheating is just an emotional allergy. My friends? They circled the wagons like loyal dogs. Bro, one said, we always knew Travis had snake energy. He wore turtlenecks in spring, another added. I should have known. Laughter helped. It always does. Especially when it's the kind that covers a scar, not a wound. 2 weeks later, Jennifer moved out. She tried to hug me on her way out. I stepped back. You don't get to do that, I said. She nodded. I understand. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize again. She just walked to her car, a single box in hand, and drove off like she hadn't burned down a decade of trust. I watched until the taillights disappeared. Then I shut the door and stood in the silence she left behind. And I smiled. Because sometimes, rock bottom isn't a fall. It's a launch pad. I spent the next month rebuilding. The kitchen needed repainting. The playlist needed updating. The bed, well, I bought a new one, queen-sized, firm, and empty. But the emptiness didn't scare me anymore. One afternoon, while clearing the attic, I found our wedding album. I didn't rage burn it or weep over the pages. I just flipped through it, page by page, marveling at how two people could smile that wide while heading straight for a cliff. Then I boxed it up and left it at the curb. Let the past be someone else's recycling. About 6 weeks post-divorce, just as I was starting to think my life might resemble a quiet sitcom rerun, the doorbell rang. It was Travis, wearing khakis and shame like cologne. Logan, he said. I didn't respond. Just leaned against the doorframe like I was debating whether to answer or call pest control. Can we talk? He asked. I blinked. Talk? Yeah. I need to explain. Buddy, unless this is a court-mandated confession or you're here to return my wedding toaster, I'm not interested. He glanced at his shoes. I messed up. I tilted my head. No. You detonated. On my life. With a smile. He winced. I lost her too, you know. Oh no, I said, mock sympathy dripping from every syllable. Did the stolen woman with boundary issues break your little snake heart? She left last week, he said. Said she couldn't look at me without seeing what she'd done. I crossed my arms. So, what? You came here thinking I'd offer you a beer and a bro hug for your trouble? No, he said. I came here because I thought if anyone knew how this feels, it'd be you. I studied him. And that's when I saw it, not arrogance. Not swagger. Just a man with the same hollowed-out look I'd worn for weeks. Still, I didn't flinch. Here's the thing, Travis, I said, voice low. I did feel what you feel, but I didn't earn it. You did. Then I closed the door. No slam. No drama. Just a firm, decisive end to the last tie holding me to that mess. That night, I opened the garage, pulled out the old punching bag I hadn't touched in years, duct taped it back into shape, hung it from the rafters, and then I hit it. Hard. For every broken vow, every fake smile, every word I swallowed instead of saying. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was just trying to finally let myself feel something without editing it. By the time I stopped, my knuckles were sore, my shirt drenched. But I felt lighter, like I'd punched my way back into my own body. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. From Jennifer. Not a text. Not an email. An honest-to-God handwritten letter on floral stationery. Like a breakup came with personalized monograms now. Logan, I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I need to tell you what I couldn't say before. I rolled my eyes, but I kept reading. Human curiosity is a stubborn thing. I didn't cheat because you were boring. I cheated because I was bored with myself. I felt like I disappeared somewhere between our routines and responsibilities. Travis made me feel seen, at first. But now I realize I was just chasing a version of myself that never existed. You didn't fail me, Logan. I failed myself. And you. You deserved honesty. And loyalty. And better. I hope someday you find someone who looks at you and sees what I was too selfish to appreciate. I'm sorry. Jen. I read it twice. Then set it on the counter. I didn't burn it. I didn't shred it. I didn't text her back some grand rebuttal. Because here's the thing about apologies, they're not magic. They don't rebuild bridges. They don't erase bruises. Sometimes, they're just postcards from the ruins. Around that time, I started seeing more of Leah, the neighbor 3 houses down. Widow. 3 years. Smart mouth, smarter eyes. We talked over the fence a few times. I'd fixed her mailbox. She'd brought me pie. Real pie. Homemade. Not the emotional kind. One evening, she caught me washing my car. Walked over in flip-flops and a sundress, holding a 6-pack like a peace treaty. You look like a man who could use a drink. I smiled. Only if it's not laced with betrayal. She grinned. No promises. We sat on the porch. Talked about everything and nothing. She told me about her husband, how he died too young, how the silence afterward was louder than she expected. You never really stop loving someone, she said. You just stop waiting for them to walk back in. That line stuck with me. Because I realized I'd stopped waiting too. Not just for Jennifer. For closure. For justice. For someone to come along and say, you were right, and they were wrong. The truth is, no one was coming to hand me closure. I had to build it. Later that week, I took a walk. No headphones. No distractions. Just the wind, my feet, and the sound of my own breath. At one point, I looked up and realized the rain clouds had rolled in. But I didn't run for cover. I let it rain. Let it soak my shirt. My hair. My scars. Because sometimes, the best thing you can do isn't to dodge the storm, but to finally stop pretending it can't touch you. 3 months after she left, Jennifer called me. Not texted. Not emailed. An actual phone call, like it was 1997, and we still believed in each other. I need to see you, she said. I could have hung up. Should have, maybe. But I agreed. Not out of hope. Curiosity, mostly the kind that makes you open the fridge 6 times even though you know there's nothing inside. We met at a cafe halfway between our new lives. She looked different. Smaller. Like guilt had been sitting on her shoulders rent-free. I never expected you to forgive me, she said. Good, I replied. Because I didn't. She sipped her drink. I heard about Travis. He moved. Left his job. Said he needed a fresh start. Let me guess, I said. That fresh start didn't include you? Her silence was the loudest thing in the room. I came to say goodbye properly, she said. And to tell you that I'm getting help. Therapy. Trying to understand why I ruined something good. I nodded. Not because I forgave her, but because I was finally detached. Good, I said. I hope you figure it out. She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. Closure has stages. For me, it came in the form of a notebook. Black cover. Spiral spine. Titled, People Who Took Something From Me. It wasn't revenge I wanted. Not exactly. Just balance. At the top of the list, Jennifer and Travis. But they'd already self-destructed. No need to throw water on an electrical fire that's already fizzled out. Next, Paul and Linda. You remember them, the friends cheering Jennifer on while she made out with Travis at the club like it was amateur hour at betrayal karaoke. Paul worked at a law firm. Linda was a real estate agent. Both lived online. So, I posted. Not rumors. Facts. Screenshots. Names redacted, but not well enough to stop anyone who knew them from putting it together. Paul's firm opened an internal review. Linda's Yelp dropped 2 stars overnight. And me? I slept like a baby. Sometimes, justice isn't violent. It's just precise. And then came the letter. Not from Jennifer. Not from anyone on the list. From Travis. Logan. I'm writing this from a hotel 2 states over. No job. No friends. Just me and the knowledge that I burned the only real friendship I ever had. You were the best man I ever knew, and I betrayed you. I deserve the mess I'm in. But there's something you should know. Jennifer, it wasn't just me. There was someone else before. Maybe after, too. She never told me who. I'm not saying this to hurt you. Just thought you deserved the full picture. My fist clenched around the paper. Another name? Another layer? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I made one more entry in the notebook. Trust is not a weakness, but it should come with insurance. A year later, I stood in the mirror. New place. New job. New man staring back. I wasn't the same guy who found a panda sock in the couch and thought love was indestructible. That guy died the day Jennifer looked me in the eye and lied with a smile. But I wasn't bitter either. Not anymore. Just sharper. More selective with who I let into the house, into my heart, into the fragile, sacred place where trust lives. Leah still brought pie. We talked. We walked. She never asked me to rush, and I never asked her to save me. One night, she sat beside me on the porch, looked at the stars, and said, "You don't smile like a man waiting for revenge anymore." And I didn't. Because revenge? That was never the real goal. The goal was peace. And I'd found it. Not in confrontation. Not in violence. But in building something new from the ashes and making damn sure no one ever lit a match near me again.